Hello, neighbors. My name is Peter Boykin, and I'm running for U.S. Congress. That's BoykinForCongress.com. I'm running in North Carolina Congressional District 13, unless they change everything in December or September. So let me tell you a little bit about this thing called critical race theory. It's a little complicated. The left says it's the greatest thing since government cheese. The right appropriately says it's evil. So if you're confused by CRT, you're not alone. The left wants you to think that CRT is nothing more than a legal theory that seeks to understand and address inequality and racism in the United States. That kind of sounds harmless, right? But here's the truth. Or like Biden would like to say, here's the deal. It's not legal theory. It's a divisive cultural ideology that teaches that all white people are inherently racist. And even if the white person doesn't hold conventional racist beliefs of superiority, they are still racist because they exist within the benefit from a system of so-called white supremacy. That system of white supremacy, according to CRT, is the entire American society. The Constitution, the U.S. Bill of Rights, which is the freedom of speech and private property rights, capitalism, and our legal system. But don't take my word for it. I'm not putting words in the critical race theorist's mouth. Harvard professor Derek Bell was one of its founders. In 1992, he wrote, the quote, "The whole liberal world would view of private rights and public sovereignty medicated by the rule of law needed to be exploded." So if you follow CRT to its ultimate end game, the only way to cleanse our society is to dismantle these pillars of American society. Indoctrinism. CRT is being pushed. It's being pushed in your children's schools. In government through radical bills. And even in corporate America. And the message is clear. You're nothing more than a color of your skin. And all white people are the oppressors, and all minorities are oppressed. That's a far fetch from Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, where I'd like to be judged by the content of my character, not by the color of my skin, and I dream of the day that all the black and white children will be together in one. It's quite literally the opposite of CRT. Here's an example of CRT via PragerU. If a black and white person walks into a shop at the same time, the shop owner has to choose one to help first. If they help the white person first, it's because they think blacks are second-class citizens. And if they help the black person first, it's because they didn't trust them alone in their store. It's a no-win situation. It's as bad as, does this dress make me feel fat or look fat? Don't answer that question. Critical race theorists tell us that racism is present everywhere in our society, and they look for it critically until they find it. Now let me rewind that and tell you the history of critical race theory. It feels like critical race theory crept into the mainstream out of nowhere. But the truth is it's been lurking in the shadows for a century, playing the long game. To understand critical race theory, we need to first understand its predecessor, critical theory. Now, critical theory was born in Germany in the 1920s at Frankfurt School, one of the first Marxist schools in the West. It was based on the Marxist idea that all systems of government were only there to oppress the lower class. During the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, the critical theorists fled to the United States for fear of persecution. And many ended up at our Ivy League schools like Harvard University and Columbia University. So let's talk about the birth of critical race theory. Fast forward to the 1970s, where a group of Harvard University academics took the principle of critical theory and added the word race to it. Critical theorists believed our institutions were built to oppress based on class. Critical race theorists believed our institutions were built to oppress based on race. Now, why the switch? The ultimate goal of the Marxists is to dismantle the American system. But they realized that Americans wouldn't allow themselves to be divided by the traditional Marxist trick of class warfare. Americans have ambition, and we believe in our system that promises equal opportunity to work for our dreams. But they realize that in a country as diverse as ours, it would be much more easier to divide by race. And so critical theory became critical theory became critical race theory. Quite confusing, right? Let's see this again. They realized that in our country, as diverse as ours, it would be much easier to divide by race. And so, critical theory became critical race theory. So, nowadays, it's the opposite of Martin Luther King's speech. Nowadays, it seems to be judged not by the content of his character, but by the color of his skin. That is the chains of critical race theory. This is Peter Boykin from the Boykin for Congress campaign, boykinforcongress.com. I'm running in North Carolina, District 13. I hope that explained a lot to you, neighbor, and God bless everybody, no matter what race you are, or what color, your religion, or your sexuality, or your nationality. If you're in my district, I'm going to represent you. And we're going to put America first. And that includes all Americans. God bless.